Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. Today we're going to be looking at another Lost Thunder deck. This time it's going to be Sceptile GX, one of my personal favourites and one that I'm really excited to start testing. So let's get into the basic concept here. We're going to be saying that Grovyle really does help this deck out a lot. Yes, you're a Stage 2 deck, but this ability that we get from the new Grovyle is really going to give us a huge consistency boost. Once we start getting one on the board, he's going to find your next Grovyle, which finds your next Grovyle, which finds your next Grovyle, and then hopefully your board builds up all at once. So really getting those early netballs down and Professor Elm into play, gets your army of Treeckos, and then they all build up together. So previous issues where you've seen Stage 2 decks, even when they do get a candy into a Stage 2, sometimes they're just left with little basics around the board, not much else they can do there, and here or there they can miss a turn of attacking or whatnot, because they haven't got enough attackers physically on the board. Well, Grovyle helps us set up our own attackers, but also helps set up the rest of the engine as well, because we are playing a thin Lurantis line in here to improve our damage output. It is all really nice and smooth thanks to the Grovyle that can use that ability throughout the game. Even when your stuff starts to get knocked out, you can use Grovyles to get them back. After doing things like a rescue stretcher, you can immediately find them again with Grovyle, get them back into play. So he really does help mitigate a big issue that we do see with Stage 2 decks in the current format. And Sceptile himself, we wouldn't talk about this card unless he was good. And he is tanky, and his attack costs are efficient and disruptive to decks that play special energy as well. And of course we have the non-GX Sceptile, which is trying to straight up wall Ultra Beast decks. And, Blacephalon is a brand new one coming out from the new set, which has a huge amount of potential. And Buzzwole has been insane, all of last year with Buzzrock, and continues to look good with a lot of new toys at his disposal as well. So Sceptile coming in to say no to those two archetypes is a really big deal. Let's have a look at the Pokemon itself then. I'm going to play 4 copies of the new Treecko. It has a nice little attack called Find a Friend. Search your deck for a grass Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand. This is, something that you get for free, and it can definitely help you out. Gets you into your Grovyles, and then the Grovyle finds everything else, which I've already mentioned. So Treecko really does have a great attack for you. The Grovyle has that Sunshine Grace. It's what we've seen on a previous Sunflora way back when in Heart Gold Soul Silver, and more recently on a mushroom Pokemon that I can't remember the name of. But yeah, it's a really nice ability. Once during a turn, search your deck for a grass Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand. So as soon as the first one comes down, typically similar to how we've seen Garchomp Altara used to function with Gabites, you would use your first Grovyle to find you your next Grovyle to find you as many Grovyles as you need. And then the final one will be the one searching for, the Sceptile or the Fomantis or the extra Treecko or whatever else you need that turn. So all your Grovyles are fully developed, and from there the following turn you can use all those abilities all over again. So it really does help the deck tick over, thins the deck really nicely so that we can draw into more of our item cards and whatever else we need for the rest of the game. So the ability is absolutely phenomenal. It helps us fish out this one of the non-GX Sceptile if it's the matchup where we need him. Power of Nature says prevent all damage done to your Pokemon that have any grass energy attached to them from your opponent's Ultra Beasts. So as I mentioned, we're trying to say no to Blacephalon and say no to Buzzwole, which is really cool, especially because Blacephalon's a fire deck. It would otherwise be a straight up auto loss. Now it's much more winnable. They pretty much have to tech to beat you to get around this Sceptile. It does also have an attack Powerful Storm. It does 20 times the amount of energy attached to all of your Pokemon. Never going to get too powerful unless you're already dominating the game, so don't use it as an attacker too often. He's just the tech here for some big matchups. Then you have the Sceptile GX. It's a new card, 230 hit points, really nice, and it has 3 attacks. The first is Mat Cut, which just does 60, and you discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Choice Band, we're going up to 90, two-shotting, things like Lele's. With Fomantis as well, Sunny Day pushing us to 110. Now we're two-shotting things like Zoroark, whilst also getting rid of their special energies, and it starts to become a real headache for them. So Choice Band and Lurantis both going to be big factors for improving our maths here. Leaf Cyclone does 130 for 2 grass energies, and you move a grass energy from this Pokemon to your benched Pokemon, one of them at least. And so this reads very similarly to Y Cyclone. It's the same, but for 2 grass. So this is also very, very synergistic with Max Potion, so that we can use the Leaf Cyclone, get hit, Max Potion, go straight into Mat Cut again, And if they want to keep dealing with the Sceptile, they can, but essentially the Leaf Cyclone really does mean that we're never overly committed on one GX Pokemon. So where you see things like Gardevoir, there's that sort of early game where they're sort of attaching one energy, max potioning, attaching one energy, max potioning, trying to build up their board of Gardevoirs until they can go sort of all in. Here we have that Leaf Cyclone, so we're never in an all-in situation. We're always going to have like two Sceptiles threatening for the following turn. So that's really awesome. It does come with a Jungle Heal GX attack as well. It heals all damage from all of your Pokemon that have any grass energy attached to them as well. So this is a great way of getting around spread decks. There are definitely going to be a lot coming out in the new set because we do have that Giratina coming out. Tapu Koko is already a big deal. There's that Spell Tag, all sorts of different toys for the spread stuff to play with. And having this GX attack option to heal a bunch of our guys all at once is going to be fantastic. So bear this in mind, going to be good when you're up against spread archetypes, and also adds to the sort of max potions that we're already playing on turns where maybe you're not getting a knockout, you just want to attach and heal so that they can attack into you again, but you'll still be able to Leaf Cyclone and stuff like that. It's a really great option for you. So all round, 3 great attacks here that are all on the cheap as well. So I do really like this Sceptile. It even has a 1 retreat cost, just something else. Just everything in the deck is really easy to move out. Obviously, Lurantis is the chunky one, but if that's getting gusted up, it's probably getting knocked out a lot of the time. But yeah, all the good attacks here that provide a lot of issues for decks that can't one-hit KO him. From there, we're going to play a 2-2 line of the Lurantis. Fomantis isn't actually the worst lead for you either, so both the Treecko and the Fomantis have nice early game attacking options. Simpsys can simply help you grab an energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon, so then you can like pay retreat out of the Fomantis the following turn, so you sort of save yourself an attachment. Lurantis has that Sunny Day ability, and each of your Grass and Fire Pokemon do 20 more damage to your opponent's active. That's what I've already mentioned, Mat Cut being turned into a 2-hit KO. Leaf Cyclone now with a Choice Band being able to 1-hit KO Tapu Lele GX and other 180 or 70 hit point GX Pokemon. If you get the dream of 2 Lurantis on board, you can even be pushing up to 190, 200, and that's really excellent for dealing with, again, more basic GX Pokemon. Pretty much all basic GX Pokemon once you've got 2 Lurantis on the board. And although it's just a 2-2 line, we have the Grovyle to get them out, and we have the Ditto as well to be an extra basic in these sorts of situations. This is a card you're going to see in a bunch of different decks. Basically, if you're evolving, you're going to want Ditto in here because it has that ability. I think it's evolve into everything or whatever evolution. I can't remember what the ability is. But it says, once during a turn, when you put a stage 1 evolution, you can put a stage 1 evolution card from your hand onto this Pokemon to evolve it. So literally, you could go into a Grovyle or a Lurantis. It serves as either, and that's just incredible for you. So Ditto Prism, excellent card all around. And then we're just going to play 2 copies of Tapu Lele for that Wonder Tag. And of course, we are using Leaf Cyclone as well. So although we're not using DCEs, you can technically power up Leles as attacking threats if you need them to. Onto the item cards. I'm going to make 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher. I really do want to wiggle in a second copy because the Grovyles are just so great at fishing them straight back out that I could definitely see me putting in more. But the intention here is we're going to be healing a lot of the time. If our stuff's not getting knocked, like the intention of the deck is that stuff isn't getting knocked out, so we, in theory, shouldn't need to Rescue Stretcher too much outside of like Lurantises that are getting picked off. From there, going to play 3 copies of Max Potion, trying to have a similar build to Broken Guardy. That's pretty much where I'm sort of trying to make this work, and having this amount of Max Potion plus the GX attack should mean that we can be doing these sort of mat cuts against Zoroarks and trying to grind them out, force them to waste turns using a Rangaroo just to get back resources, because that can help us pull ahead in the race by starting to take knockouts from there. 3 copies of Rare Candy. Although we are playing a heavy Grovyle engine, I do think it is important for us to have tempo and start getting damage on the board. 3 Rare Candies are going to help this happen. 4 copies of the new Netball, an absolutely incredible card. It allows you to search your deck for a Grass Pokemon or a basic Grass Energy, reveal it and put it into your hand. So yes, it's just a Nest Ball. In most situations, like in the early game, it's going to be great just for fishing out these Treeckos and Fomantises. But when it becomes the late game, we just have more outs to find out Grass Energy, and it allows us to skimp out on those counts a little bit more, which is obviously very, very important because we're a Stage 2 deck, so every sort of corner that we can cut, we really need that help because it allows us to make spaces, because naturally, you know, we're playing 19 Pokemon in here just because we need to play a thick Stage 2 line, so The netball really does allow us to cut some corners and still have a good amount of outs to find grass energy each turn, because we do need that if we're using these max potions, and if we're using Leaf Cyclone, we want to have grass energy accessible throughout the game. From there, 4 Ultra Ball, obvious, simple card, and 3 Choice Band. I've gone for a high count just because it is so integral with your Lurantis on board to start pressuring. And one of the new Prism Star Stadium cards, Life Forest Prism Star. Once during each player's turn, that player may heal 60 damage and all special conditions from one of their grass Pokemon. So again, on turns, maybe you're not wanting to max potion, but you can push yourself out of range with a Life Forest. That would be absolutely incredible. It's fantastic again for spread. As long as it stays on the board, it's going to bounce other stadiums anyway. It's going to be very good for you. And obviously it can't get targeted by Field Blower or Faber anyway, so it only is from attacks or from opposing stadiums that can bounce the Life Forest. So if you get 1 or 2 turns of value of this, it's absolutely insane. And it really is ridiculous as time goes on. But at the very least, it's a Pokemon Center Lady in a stadium card, so you get to use a different supporter at the same time. So it's worth the slot just for that alone. On to the supporters, I again have gone fairly basic. 1 copy of the new Professor Elm's Lecture, an excellent supporter card for Stage 2 decks. It allows you to search your deck for 3 Pokemon with 60 hit points or less, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. We're going to be grabbing Treeckos, sometimes Ditto Prism Star as well. And that gets us into the Grovyles and all that other good stuff. I feel like because we do have those 4 netballs that we don't necessarily need to play a second copy of this guy, because really we'd only be doing that to give ourselves like an extra 4% of having it in our opening hand. And, you know, you're only a 1 in 10 to prize it anyway, so I don't feel like the slot is that viable. Instead, I'm going for maxing out copies of the good stuff, the 4 copies of Guzma, 4 copies of Cynthia, and 4 copies of Lillie. You can experiment with stuff like Sightseer, but I don't think it's that viable. We should be lowering our hand size a good amount because Grovyle is going to thin all the Pokemon from the deck quite quickly. We don't have a very high energy count, so there shouldn't be that much clutter in the deck. A lot of insta-play ball search cards. Choice Band is insta-playable. I think the only things you're really going to be holding on to is like rare candies and max potions and stuff like that. So in theory, Lillie's going to get us a good amount of draw throughout the game. And, you know, Guzma and Cynthia, both obvious cards to have. Guzma I want to have as 4 of, especially because we're a 2-hit KO deck. So unlike things like Gardevoir, they could sometimes get away with 3 just because they could build up to the point where they could get a big 1-hit KO. And, of course, they had Twilight GX to fall back on. We have none of that. We're a 2-hit KO deck predominantly, so we've got to play 4 Guzmas to pick things off in the late game. To round things out, I did say that we're playing a fairly cheeky count of energy. We're just going to be playing 9 copies of Grass. I think 9 is actually fine because, seriously, these attack costs are very cheap. And Leaf Cyclone is great at retaining energy on the board, just like we saw with Yveltal. Because you're never really losing that many energy cards. Even when you're max potioning, you're only losing 1. We'll be moving energy to our other attackers the whole time. So I feel like it's not going to be an issue to only play 9 copies, even though you do need them throughout the game. That's also where that netball comes in that I've already mentioned. So although we're playing 9, we have 13 outs to find Grass. And that's plenty, I think, throughout the game to not miss a beat. And even if we do, we have, you know, max potion and 1 energy attacks to fall back on anyway, so it's not the biggest deal. I think it makes sense there. So here is the overview of the list. If you want to pause now, you can do. And let's move on to some tech options that I have considered. A Zebstrika is always something you have to consider when you're thinking about putting in Ditto Prism Star, giving us some extra draw. I have mentioned already that there aren't many cards that we'll be holding on to, which means typically Zebstrika is not going to have too much of a downside and could give us some extra cycle that this deck might require, as we are a little bit slow once our Grovyle engine is sort of used up and we've evolved into Sceptiles. From there, I've heard a few murmurings of going for a Leafeon GX build, trying to use Grand Bloom to get everything going, and have that Breath of the Leaves to, again, help out against these sort of spread archetypes and whatever else. Overall, I don't really feel like I want to be playing Leafeon just for the amount of spaces it would take up. If I'm going to put in the Leafeon package, I also want to put in DCEs, and I'm already quite happy that the fact I'm only playing 9 energy right now and I'm getting away with it. Whereas if you need to squeeze in the Leafeon, you need to make a lot of cuts and make cuts for DCEs to make the Leafeon more usable for Solar Beam and for retreating and stuff like that. So all around it feels a little bit awkward to me. A Lurantis GX could be thrown in if you are worried about the amount of energy cards that we are playing, or if you're worried about mill, anything like that, one Lurantis GX, and that's going to be absolutely no problem anymore. And one Shuckle GX, another new card coming out from Lost Thunder, put in here to try and improve a couple matchups, which we'll talk about in a moment. The Shuckle would definitely be great against Lost March, one of the big one-hit KO decks that you don't want to face right now as a Sceptile player. The Shuckle could help you out there, especially because it is so searchable with Grovyle. Extra reason to, find it early on in the game, even though it's a one-of, get it down on the board and start pressurizing and punishing them for not playing a lot of energy cards themselves. And then on the far right, there is the whole other build to Sceptile that was the one that actually was most successful in Japan. It was playing alone in Exeggutor as sort of a main attacker, and you thin down the Sceptile line. That's a list for another day, but I thought I'd throw it in here just sort of a nod to that deck, because, it's going to be one we'll profile eventually anyway. So onto the matchup overview. The long and short of it is, you really don't want to see one-hit KO decks if you're Sceptile. We can't keep up damage-wise. Although we can reach 180 and 200, which can keep us in the game against things like Vikaray, I guess, to an extent, they'll just get to a point where they're going one-hit KO after one-hit KO, and it's very difficult for us to keep up with that. Lost March is another new deck that you really don't want to face. I've already mentioned the Shuckle could be thrown in if you are worried about it. Magcargo GX also sounds abysmal. They don't play special energy cards, and they just detonate you very, very easily, and they have so much energy acceleration that they won't miss a beat, and it's really hard for us to reach a Magcargo GX, especially if they're playing Muscle Dumbbells, which a lot of them are teching in to improve some other one-hit KO decks, believe it or not. So yeah, you want to be avoiding the one-hit KO stuff. However, I think a lot of Zoro matchups look pretty good. I think Buzzwole, in theory, looks very good if they're not teching for you. The spread variants, I think I'm happy to face. Overall, yeah, just a lot of good matchups, but the big one-hit KO stuff is the question mark for me. And that's where we get on to our closing thoughts. Like I said, you want to face the spread. You have the answers for Zoroark. Ultra Beasts are going to have a hard time for you. If they're only teching like one Plumeria, they can definitely still lose the game, because they can get rid of one of the Sceptiles, sure, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to win out. I think a lot of the time, if it's Blacephalon, they're better served playing a Kiawe target and hoping that can carry 4 prizes, and they can use like Blacephalon to Guzma up a Lele or something like that. I think if you're Buzzwole, you really are having a bad time against Sceptile. Ninetales isn't a strong enough attacker to deal with you with all the healing that you have. Lycanroc is obviously weak to grass as well, so there's definitely going to be headaches there for the Buzzwole players. But Sceptile is pretty much dependent on which one-hit KO decks come out on top. If Buzzwole and Blacephalon are top of the meta, Sceptile's a great call. There's no doubt about that. But if it's Lost March and Magcargo GX and still some Ray sneaking around, that's going to be a real headache for you. So I think that's where Sceptile lies. He does still have that sort of fragileness to him where he doesn't do enough damage on his own. We do need the Lurantis to help power him up the whole time. Otherwise, he's just going to slip behind these faster decks. So he is very much ready to take on the Zoroarks and the spread decks and anything like that. But will just crumble to decks that just go fast, hit their combo, and start swinging too quickly for him. So that is my overall thoughts on Sceptile. I'm excited to try him out. I honestly think he could succeed. There's going to be the Alone in Exeggutor build as well, which we'll talk about in another video. Let me know what you guys think about this archetype. Will it be one in the first place, or is the Alone Egg just better? I'd love to hear it all down below. Let me know also what deck you want to see next from us. And yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.